This call is now being recorded.
Hello, everybody. It is the Master Blaster Podcasters once again coming at you. Dirty Mouth Morgan, and I'm Dylan. Welcome. We have just completed a news of the day, and I can do this because we're going to post this basically right after our news of the day, which turned into basically Israel versus Palestine and the news of the war that's going on there. But we're going to lighten it up a little bit. We've got a continuation of our best of horror movies. We did the best of 1970s, 1980s. Now we're going to do 1990s. We're going to split this up into two parts. Anybody that's listened to our podcasts, they've come through full and clear. Anybody on YouTube that has listened to them or watched them, they have been cut short. So we have since learned that our files need to be separated when doing this for YouTube. Otherwise, on our feed dashboard, we can't upload them to YouTube with the size, I guess, if we're going to do like a 2 hour or 3 hours, I believe. So we're going to do this in a parts 1 and 2. We're going to do basically number 20 through number 11 and then number 10 through number 1. And we're going to start basically when we get down to, we don't exactly have the same amount. I think I have 22. Dirty, you've got, what, 24?
Yes.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll start off, me and him will just do like the 4, he's got 4, I got 2 for the 20. Once we get to 20, we'll start a countdown basically. 20, we'll do our 20 and then go down to 1. All right, so just as a basis though, 80s and the 70s were a real heyday for horror movies. In the 1990s, a little bit of a drop off, and even to the current day, not that there's not a lot of horror movies being produced, it's not quite the, and Dirty, tell me if you agree with this, not quite the underground thing it used to be. I mean, Evil Dead and even like Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a lot of these underground films made very little money that blew up and became major franchises.
Yeah.
Since then, horror movies, it's not been the same. It's all really more big business, not done nearly as well. One thing I like about the older horror movies is I love the dark ambiance of the films. It gives a foreboding sort of look and theme. The music, of course, of the 70s and 80s was brilliant compared to the newer ones, but there have been some good ones of recent vintage. So let's go through the 1990s one, and we'll start. Dirty, I guess let's start with you. Let's do your ones of, like, say, 21, 22, 23, 24 first. I'll do my 2 that are outside of the 20, and then we'll start with our list. And let's, if you have something, again, if one person has a movie, if the other person has it but it's further down, that person can do very little explaining because they'll be talking about it when they present their movie at whatever number it is further down the list. If it's not on the list, then I'm going to go ahead and Dirty's going to go ahead and make a comment about it, because that's our only chance, of course, if we don't have it on the list to comment about it. So, Dirty, let's get into this. Number 20 for the best horror movie in the 1990s. And feel free at any point, too, if you want to make a generalization about a comment about horror movies in the 1990s, feel free. We should have plenty of time for this because we're splitting it up.
Right. Yeah, I have on my list the movie Kronos by Del Toro. I like it. This is something I noticed with like 90s horror. It's scary, but it's really like technical and intricate, and it's a really bizarre movie, but it's really interesting, and it's almost steampunkish. Yeah,
Del Toro is definitely a guy that has taken up the mantle of one of the best horror directors of recent vintage. He definitely learned from the greats, and he's made a number of movies. I have to say, Dirty, I haven't seen quite a bit of Del Toro's movies. Besides that, I saw the big Japanese, his take on the big Japanese, I don't know, Transformers, for lack of a better term, that were fighting in the ocean.
Do
you remember that?
Yeah, not Prometheus. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, it's just his Kuju or Kanju
Right, right.
style film. Yeah, pretty good.
So that was good. Just the way I wanted it too, because very little um, characterization. I don't give a shit about the characters. Just a ton of action. Anyway, I've not seen Chronos. Is there any, do you have like a brief description? Again, to the audience, we're going to try the best we can to stay away from spoilers. We're not going to give away the endings. We'll tell you about segments of them without giving away the juicy. We're trying to get you to go see these movies and not tell you the whole thing about it. But do you have a brief description about the movie and what you liked about it so much?
I just liked it. It's really unique and it's ahead of its time. It's about an older man. I believe it takes place in Spain, and he collects artifacts. And there's one that he has that's like basically it's a machine. You release it, and a like mechanical demon will crawl out, and then it'll take possession of you.
Cool.
It's really good. It's beautiful. It's beautiful cinematography. I don't know. I just like it. I discovered it when I was looking up his movies. I enjoyed the soundtrack and just visually, it's a great movie.
Cool. Okay. So let's. You've got 4 here to give. Before we get to our top 20, what is your number 3? We'll call them whatever, best of extras, or what do you call it? If something just misses like your list, you give it a what is that? Like mention of honor, something of honor.
Honorable mention.
Honorable mention. Yeah. So what is your honorable mention number 2?
The Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino.
Interesting.
Pretty good movie.
Yeah, kind of crossing the boundary. Dirty, I don't know about you, but I have a few from this decade that are arguable whether or not they're horror movies or not.
Right, yeah.
Can you just, what do you think now? Obviously, that's Pacino and Keanu Reeves. Can you say why you think that belongs in horror and why you liked it?
I liked it. I like the script and I like the story. But it's just, it's the devil who's become corporatized because he discovered that's the way, that he can be amongst humans. Keanu Reeves plays his son, who he doesn't know until the end that he's I want to say the Antichrist. But there's scenes where it's basically it's basically loosely talking about the 7 deadly sins, but you see some of the characters reveal themselves to have hate or to be evil, and they reveal themselves and commit horrible acts of violence and murder people. The way there's a sex scene where Pacino is hooking up with like 2 other women, and the way they filmed it and the special effects where they're intertwined, the way the demons look, and Pacino it's more just his performance, or it's a great role because he gets to freak out and do his Pacino thing and yell and I don't know. I just liked it, but it's more performative. I have to say that in a lot of these '90s movies where it's like they wrote a lot of really good scripts. It wasn't just about the monsters; it was about the story. So that's kind of why I got into it. So I don't know. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, that was a very good era for Al Pacino. You're talking about the 90s. He was a real resurrection in his career. The year after Devil's Advocate, he did maybe my favorite performance of him, which was in Donnie Brasco, the mob movie with Johnny Depp. And the Devil's Advocate, of course, earlier on, in the decade, he won the Oscar for with the blind guy, Scent of a Woman.
Yeah.
So it was a big decade for him. I have to say, man, Charlize Theron, I believe, right, played Keanu Reeves' girlfriend in that movie. She's a great actress. I do have to admit, I really, really think that Keanu Reeves is lacking a lot in the acting department. I really don't think he has a lot of depth. I think he's a basic, he doesn't emit emotion very well, and he can't play any characters that I've ever seen. Bill and Ted is really probably who he was at one point in his life when he was younger. He's a classy guy, really classy guy. He's been in some great films, huge fan of The Matrix. But there's a debate about that because some people think he really stinks as an actor and some people think he's really good. So, okay, well, Devil's Advocate, definitely a popular movie. Let's say, we got number 3 on your honorable mention list.
The Ninth Gate.
Oh, how did I miss that? I would have put that on my list. I missed that. I love that movie, man. Great choice.
It's just classic. Even though I'm not I can't stand what's his name who made it. Yeah, he's a piece of shit, but that's his. That's actually his specialty though, is creepy, satanic cults. Underground, gross. So I think it's great. I think Johnny Depp's in it is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's got that something about like cults and like hidden organizations and covens and all that shit. That shit's always creeped me out and it's like kind of annoyed me. Where you're just like, why can't they all just be discovered and all that? But yeah, it's a good movie. I liked it. I liked it. I just liked the fact it made me feel creeped out was pretty good. So
yeah, very good cast. Besides Johnny Depp, Lena Olin I think is a very good actress. She plays sort of the head female of the cult. Which is led apparently by Frank Langella, another great actor who was a really shitty Dracula back in the day. Not as bad as some others, but he's really had some very good performances. I love the backdrop of this plot, how they have him as a book dealer. I love how he goes to different parts of Europe. The cinematography is fantastic. Love the scene where he rips off a book dealer, or he rips off a family. This guy who's he can't talk anymore, and his sons, before he dies, are selling off his books. And the Don Quixote, he sells them, and it's like, oh, it's an original Don Quixote, which is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, I believe. And he basically grips the family and says, "Oh, this is a very common book. This is, I don't know, I'll give you like $2,000 for it." And they're like, "Sure." And the guy can't talk anymore, is in his wheelchair, and you can see him, his head is about to blow off because of the how they're getting ripped off with that. They don't even understand what kind of a huge collection that is. Love that backdrop from that movie. Okay, so let's get to your final honorable mention for 90s horror.
I'd have to say Leprechaun.
Cool. Okay, Leprechaun.
Yeah, I liked how they. I didn't see it when it came out, but I saw it later on, and I like the take on it on leprechauns and how fucking evil they are, and like they're deceitful and mischievous, and how he just fucks with everybody throughout the movie. And the guy who plays Leprechaun, he's a good actor. What's that guy's name?
The guy from Willow, who's in Willow.
Yeah, he's fucking funny as hell.
Yeah, he's great as a Leprechaun. And they did 1 million of those movies too.
Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, I don't give a shit about that guy. Warwick Davis.
Warwick Davis, there you go.
Love that guy.
All right, so I think that's it for your honorable mention list, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I got 1, 2, 3 on my honorable mention list. Number 1, a huge movie. Well, I mean, if we continue to do these on our next one, I'll have a few of them on there. But I put Alien Resurrection. It's the 4th Alien movie. I really think that 1 and 2 obviously are complete and total stone cold classics. The 3rd one was beyond god awful, just absolutely horrible. Hated it right from the beginning. And Alien Resurrection, I think, was pretty good. It has your guy from who is the superhero?
No,
well, who's the superhero guy with the horns? And he was in Shawshank Redemption. I'm gonna have to look this up. He made some comments about the strike, and he outed somebody like, I know where you live. Like, I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Who the hell is this guy I'm talking about? Of course, he's not even in the top. Starring
Ron. Yeah.
And he was in Hellboy. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in this. Winona Ryder was in it. Dan Hedaya. Quietly, that guy had one hell of a career. The guy from Cheers, he played Carla's husband. He was in Wise Guys,
I like
one of
him.
my favorite movies ever. From Clueless. And of course, Brad Dourif. Anytime you do horror movies, if Brad Dourif is in there, it's going to be pretty good. And this had different hybrids of aliens. It took place on a spaceship like the second one. The third one was more like in a camp, like not a slave camp, but
prison camp.
Yeah, it's a type of a prison camp. All right, so Alien Resurrection. Another one of my quote-unquote honorable mentions would be Child's Play 2. The first Child's Play was in 1988. The second one, the start of the whole franchise, of course, throughout the 90s and beyond. The second one, I thought, was good. It started to get a little bit campy. I realized it was kind of funny. There was I think Chucky was on the windshield, and the woman was driving down the road. The high school girl was in there, besides, of course, the main character. And she's flying all over the place trying to get him off the windshield. And he makes a comment about women drivers. He's like he's basically an Archie Bunker and a little doll. Voiced by Brad Dourif. A very good, not as good as really the rest, but still I think a pretty well done movie. And if you like Child's Play, I would recommend that. The last one I have in my honorable mention is Tales from the Hood. This was made in 1994, I believe. Had Corbin Burnson in it. Let me try to look this up. I know it had Williamson, Clarence Williams the Third, who, if you remember him from Half Baked, he was first of all, he's a real actor. He's really like a real kind of Shakespearean actor, I believe.
He's a thespian.
Yeah, he's a thespian, and he was in Half Baked as the main drug dealer. I want to talk to Samson, so he played Samson in Half Baked. Tales from the Hood is basically some short stories dealing with police corruption, domestic abuse, racism, and gang violence. Also stars David Allen Greer, who's had a good comedic career, him from In Living Color. So, all right, that does it with my honorable mention list. We can now get into our top 20. Dirty, do you want to start us off with number 20?
For me, it's the Blair Witch Project.
That was in the 90s, huh?
Yeah, it was. 98.
Son of a gun. All right. Well, hey, man, I missed that on my list. I don't know how I'm going to tell you right now. I missed some movies from the 90s. I can guarantee you that. But
sorry,
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'm the same way. It was like my 20s, so I wasn't really watching a lot of movies, and I didn't really pay attention because I didn't really watch a lot of TV in general, or go to the movies, and I was just out hanging out and living and working, and I discovered a lot of these, just looking up movies and just, catching up. But yeah, I did go see the Blair Witch Project because there was such a hype around it. They had great PR for it, and they played it off like a real event. So I went to see it, and I remember it because people either really loved it or they really hated it because there was no no music. It was all about the acting and just using the set or the background, of the environment and all that, and the subtleties, like, so I loved it, and that's what kind of scared me. And I mean, I wasn't scared, but that's what kind of like, kind of got me was, you never see anything, and how these people are freaking out using, it's like I think it was one of the first single cam style movies of that time, and you have it all the time, all in different kinds of movies. But I don't know, I just thought it was great. I thought it was a good story, and it was something different, and I thought it was good.
Yeah, I thought it was good as well. I don't understand how you could hate it, but it was a divisive movie. I mean, some people just really thought it was lousy. Part of the horror movies from the 90s where it starts is that the earliest that you and I could have seen these was maybe like 15 years old or something. There's a difference when you see a horror movie when you're 10 years old as opposed to when you see one when you're 20. You're just not going to be as scared. So the Blair Witch Project is something maybe if I saw it when I was 10 years old, I'd have been like, wow, that was dynamite. As is, I thought it was a very good horror movie. I really missed the boat on the night. So far, I'm not doing very good with missing movies that I guess I didn't look them up properly, but that should have been on my list, probably in the top 10 as is. I'm going to keep it off because I didn't originally have it. But, it's a good selection. Let me get my number 20. Dirty, you had mentioned Leprechaun. I imagine it's the first one you were talking about. The first one I thought was, it had Jennifer Aniston in it. It was her movie debut with her original nose. Of course, she's had nose surgery since then. And there's probably a few other semi-stars or something in there. I actually think the second Leprechaun was very, very good. So my number 20 is Leprechaun 2. Trying to see if there's any quote-unquote stars. I don't know. The only person I know that did anything else major is, I believe his name was Sandy Perrin, who played the neighbor of Jerry Seinfeld's parents on Seinfeld. What was his? Let me see if I can look and get his character name. Oh, Jack Klompus. Jack Klompus from Seinfeld, very, very funny on Seinfeld. Anyway, I think it was a good movie. It was a little bit scary. It was had a little bit of the camp, which Leprechaun has. And, so overall, I think it was a pretty good movie. Good enough to be at least number 20. Hey, in other decades, Leprechaun 2 would not made the top 20. But the 90s, a little bit lacking for horror movies. I have it at number 20. Dirty, what do you got for number 19?
I got Species.
Oh, good one. Good one.
Yeah. Good cinematography. I like the story. I like the idea. I like the fact that it's a female character, and it was a different perspective of of a monster. It was a Frankenstein situation where they created this beast, and it was out of control. There's a lot of interesting scenes where she's manipulating a guy, hooks up with him, and then grinds the fuck out of his crotch. And just all kinds of shit. And it was one of the first movies of its kind. So I don't know, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, for 90s horror,
Absolutely. I thought it was pretty good too. My number 19 is, I'm doubling up already, but it's Child's Play 3. I do like the Child's Play movies. Number 3 actually was definitely in a different direction. This was the first one that kind of went not full camp, but was pretty close to that. It takes place on a military. The main character, Andy, gets sent away to military school basically the whole time. But by the third one, they still think that he either did the murders, it was trying to blame a doll, or it was something to that regard, where he was either, they think he was either making it up or somehow involved. And there's some really, really funny scenes. Chucky is actually just hilarious in this movie, if you ask me. Not a great movie, but it's certainly a fun time. I remember watching that movie and having a lot of laughs. So anyway, yeah, that's my number 19 is Child's Play 3. So Dirty, let's get to number 18 and see what you got for number 18.
I got Frighteners with Michael J. Fox.
Aha, I remember that one.
It was great. I liked the special effects. Peter Jackson's, I think, his first American movie. Great story. It's kind of campy, but still pretty interesting and kind of scary the way the ghosts are and how it killed people, and it takes place in, of course, it's usually either the South or like a New England town, just like Stephen King does. But great location, great cinematography. The special effects is great. Great cast, I think, like I said. But I was really impressed with Michael J. Fox. It was like watching him as an adult, and he really was like, it was cool seeing him really acting like in the modern day as an adult rather than playing, child roles. And I think he was a badass hero.
Yeah, he really tried hard after he got out of Family Ties to really reverse his typecasting, really, which, he tried to do Casualties of War with Sean Penn, and he really just ended up, in my opinion, he just really ended up getting blown off the screen by Sean Penn. But this one was a little more successful. I mean, I liked Casualties of War movie, just not him really as much. But this was a success, as it was as far as a comedy movie. He did a comedy movie called Greed, which was friggin' hilarious. He wasn't the funniest part. I mean, Phil Hartman was just a kind of a comic genius, was just perfect, almost perfect in that movie. But, Michael J. Fox, he's had a pretty good career. I think Frighteners was a pretty good movie. For my number 18, this is a Stephen King. I don't know if I have too many other, I guess I have a few more Stephen King in this decade, but anything Stephen King will certainly dominate most decades. I have the only book, it was a good movie. The book was better than the movie. The only one I believe that he wrote under the was it a nom de plume or a pseudonym, whatever. It was Richard Bachman. Anyway, the movie is called Thinner. It was a really, really interesting story about a guy who basically, driving down the road, his wife is giving him oral sex, and he hits a gypsy from a native tribe who was selling things in town. Don't know how she was walking in the, near the streets in the middle of the night, but either way, he doesn't report it. It goes. He doesn't face. I think he's got a high price lure. He's rich. Gets him off, and then he eats a cursed strawberry pie. Everything unfolds from there. The book is really, I think, more. It's definitely more sad than the movie. They even go deeper into things about what happened to him, his family, not just him. Anyway, movie is Thinner. Like it. My number 18 selection. Let's go on with your number 17 selection.
Let's see. The Audition.
The Audition. Tell me a little bit. Doesn't ring a bell.
So Audition is a Japanese horror film. I heard about it actually through IMF, I believe, has their own countdown, and Rob Zombie was naming his favorites, and one of his favorites is The Audition, and I was like, huh, interesting. So I looked it up and watched it, and it's basically about this woman who auditions for a film. She goes to like this film producer's house, and basically she like tortures him. And it's like one of the first like human monster style genres where it's just all about noise, sounds, and just extreme just intensity. And she's just real smooth and casual. One thing is she paralyzes the guy, but he's still able to feel pain, but he can't speak. So she starts like she takes like a wire strip, and then she starts like cutting him, and he's unable to really scream. And it's just but the way she's acting, and how smooth and casual she is, but she's just torturing the shit out of this guy. It's fascinating. Like it's intense. It's like before the movies that you see now, like it was the first of its kind. And I think that's like a Japanese style. There's lots of like fucked up sounds and intensity and just ultra pain. And so
Yeah, Japanese horror movies are definitely known for their intensity, for sure.
yeah.
There's some other book or movie I read or watched where somebody used that drug on somebody, and it's something that makes it so that you can't move or speak, or it basically renders you lifeless except for your feeling, and you can't feel pain. And I forget which other horror movie they used it in, but yeah, that's quite a horrible drug.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was used in something where they thought that somebody was dead, and they couldn't say like, "Hey, I'm not dead" or whatever. But yeah, interesting. So we're on 17. My number 17 is The Exorcist Part 3. I famously did not have the first Exorcist in the 1970s. Basically, everyone would. If anybody has an opinion, would probably berate me for that. I understand it's a classic, but I didn't have it in there. Exorcist 2 came out in the later half of the 70s. I think it took place in Africa and a few other, maybe few other continents. But Exorcist 3 was a completely a turnaround. Linda Blair was not in this. It's who is it? George C. Scott.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Of course, Brad Dourif. Brad Dourif is in this. What I did like about it is I didn't quite like the ending as much, or it got to a point where, to be honest with you, Brad Dourif's character I did not like in the movie when he starts to go back and forth with George C. Scott.
Mm-hmm.
I did actually like the first 45 to 60 minutes of it, where there's people getting killed in New York City, and some of the visuals are pretty interesting as far as who the spirit takes control of.
Yeah.
There's a hospital and some nurses involved in a couple of the scenes that are really kind of intense and scary. So I would include that towards the end of my list. That's my number 17. So we're on to 16. Dirty, what do you got for number 16, 1990s greatest horror movies?
The movie Stigmata.
Yeah, I did see that. Billy Corgan did the music from that. Did this?
Oh yeah.
Score, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good movie. When it came out, came out in '99, so a lot of movies back then were all geared towards the end of days, revelations, everything's gonna go to shit. So it was like, it's something, I guess, in the Bible where talks about people are conduits and signs from God. But it was, I don't know, it was a pretty good movie. It's very 90s, the way the fonts are and the wording, and the words and the music and the fashion, the wardrobe and all that and the looks. But I don't know. I thought it was okay.
Yeah,
Visually it was okay.
Dirty.
What's that?
Isn't Patricia Arquette in that?
Yeah, she's the star.
Good actress, yeah.
Yeah.
I did go see that at the theaters.
Oh wow.
All right, so let's we're gonna continue on number 16. Number 16 is a movie that you and I talked about this in the 1980s. I think we were talking about Creep Show, and I think you thought it was part of the Creep Show film series. Technically, it is. I mean, it was directed by. Actually, no, it wasn't directed by George A. Romero. He was a producer for this one. But it's Tales from the Dark Side, the movie,
Mm-hmm.
done in 1990. Very well done. I'm not going to go too much more into it because we talked about it kind of at length as if it was on the 80s list. But my favorite one from this, I believe Blondie was in this.
Debbie Harry?
Yeah, Debbie Harry was, Christian Slater. David Johansen from the New York Dolls, who
Oh wow.
did some questionable projects in the late 80s and early 90s. Ugh. Do you know that he did that song, Hot, Hot, Hot? Oh, baby, doing good, but sad to do it, hot, hot, hot.
Yeah, he did a lot of pop.
How did that suck? Anyway, William Hickey is in this movie. Now, he's the old guy, he talks like this. He's like a real old, he was in like a couple of mafia movies. He played the grandfather from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Plays a great old guy. James Remar. Now, the one scene that is my favorite for the sketch is the last one, which basically just starts out. I'm not going to go too much more into it. It starts off with a ghoul on top of a building, and that ghoul eventually comes to life. Is basically what I'll say about it. But James Remar. And by the way, one thing I'll say is that it's too bad that we're only doing movies and not TV. That is something we can get into as far as other horror stuff, because there was a lot of good episodes on Tales from the Crypt. Tales from the Crypt really provided a lot of good little short horror stories from that decade. Yeah. I mean, at least like 2 dozen that I can remember offhand that were very good. So James Remar was in one of my more favorite ones from Tales from the Crypt. But anyway, so that's my number, what is that, 16? That is number 16. Dirty, what do you got for number 15?
The Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
Ooh, good one.
Just a good thriller, a good story. One of those films that just, at the time I thought it was really good, suspenseful. I don't know. I just thought it was all around, good movie.
Yeah.
And creepy.
For the guy that played the he was slow, and it was from Forrest Gump. The girl is from Risky Business. Rebecca De Mornay. She played the antagonist in that movie.
Yeah.
I can't remember the husband and the wife who they were, but yeah, that was a very popular movie too. When it came out, that was a huge hit. I've heard it referenced in many TV shows and popular culture, so a very good one there. Number 15 on my list. This is one that's arguable about whether or not it's a horror movie. It's probably more science fiction than it is horror. But the first two of these movies were horror. So I'm going to include it in there. I have Army of Darkness by Sam Raimi.
Oh, okay.
Continues Evil Dead 2, but again, it's more in a science fiction way. But I love the dead people in movies that he's got. Basically, the walking skeletons. Even though some walking skeletons are just really of no harm to anybody. If you just kick them in there, they fall over. But I like the skeleton characters in this. I like the war scenes and the different battles and going through different parts of the past. And I was always hoping that they would that Raimi would continue that. I know these guys don't like to do too much of the same stuff, but I was hoping that to continue Army of Darkness. I believe that one ended the way that the second one did. Any sort of, where do we go from here? What other adventures is he going to have? And I really kind of wish that he had continued that and made that a franchise. I think that would have been very welcomed by the fans because it's become such a cult series of movies. Anyway, all right, so that's my number 15 is Army of Darkness. What do you got for number 14?
The Good Son.
Hey, wow, with Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, he's really good in it. It's one of those things where it's like child horror movies are. I like them because it's it's a kid, so they can manipulate the situation, and he's always had that smirk on his face, like he said, his signature look, especially as a kid, and he was really good as a villain.
Yeah, and that's something too where if you remember, he had a notorious father who was like the father from hell on set and was very, kind of getting in directors' faces and why don't you do it this way? Why don't you do it that way?
Right.
He actually was the one, he kind of took over Macaulay Culkin's career a little bit. The portion, he was actually pushing him to do more of these kind of movies. So he's not typecast. It's amazing if you have a 12-year-old kid, an 11-year-old kid, you don't want to be typecast in these Home Alone things. It's like, okay, Dad, like I'll play like a killer or something, or I'll play like an odd thing to go through as a 12-year-old to try to make sure you're not being typecast. But I think it was a very good performance. I really think Macaulay Culkin's one of the greatest child actors. He's fantastic in the Home Alone movies. He was great in Uncle Buck.
He's actually really good.
Yeah. Okay, so we're on number 14. I got to say, guys, I'm going to cut my 14 a little bit short, and I'm going to almost kind of replace it. I mean, the first thing I'll say is I had The Bride of Chucky, which this is the third damn child play movie I'm talking about. I'm kind of tired of talking about it. This, I guess you could say, was my favorite one just because it was the most, I don't know, pushing the boundaries the furthest, was full on camp. Chucky gets high with a female doll who was played by,
Jennifer Tilly.
Jennifer Tilly, of course, yeah. And she's really kind of, I don't remember her doing much after this movie except for, before that she did that movie where she had the lots of female, sort of lesbian scenes kissing with.
Yeah.
But it was a kind of a big deal. After this, I don't really remember her in too many things, so she's kind of like, I think she went to a lot of those Comic-Con things where she dressed up as her character. I think she relived that character a few times. But I'm gonna throw one other. I only had 3 honorable mentions. I just thought of this one for some reason. I think my research has got cut a little short. I think that's why I missed some things. But there's a movie that I want to talk about briefly. Oh God, if I can get to it. Let me try this for 2 seconds. I'm not going to hold this up. Let's see if I can get it. If not, we'll just move on and I'll try to come back to it. Here we go. Okay. Guillermo del Toro. He did a movie in 1997 that took place in the Chicago Field Museum. I want to say, let me see. I'm sorry for the slow pace of this one. I believe it did take place in the Chicago Field Museum, and it's a movie called Mimic. It's about an old-style beast that somehow gets delivered as an old relic. There's another movie called Relic, which I didn't see that one, but this is, oh, geez, you know what? I'm sorry. I screwed this up. I believe I meant to say Relic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, this is what happens when you ad lib. relic. Let me see if I can get this up. Okay, well, these are a little close. I guess the other one is about cockroaches. It's Guillermo del Toro. This one is Peter Hyams. And yeah, it does take place in the Chicago Field Museum of Natural History. And basically, natural history, there's some things that get delivered there that are part of, that are part of history. Old fossils and bones and different things to be shown off when they do their reconstructions of dinosaurs and all these kind of things. So anyway, one of the things that gets delivered is a box that apparently has this old beast in it, I guess, and it is the relic. It's really kind of scary. It lives there in the Field Museum, and mayhem ensues basically after that. So if you guys haven't seen that, it's 1997. The Relic, I do highly recommend it. Anyway, okay, so that was my number 14. We are moving on to number 13. Dirty, what do you got?
I got Stephen King's It on TV. It was a TV movie, but it's still a movie. It was a good cast or whatever, but really it was a good movie in the sense that I think Pennywise was scary as hell in that movie.
Yep.
I think they could have done more, but I just felt that it was just, it was like the birth of the popularization of the scary clown. And there's nothing like Stephen King, nothing like Pennywise and Stephen King's It. I like the new ones as well, but this one, at the time, it just kind of like freaked me out in a way, because it was just scary, I thought that, let's see. Yeah, Tim Curry. He was amazing in it. He was amazing. That's, sad he passed away. He was a great character actor, but
when did he pass away?
Like 4 years ago, I believe.
Curry? Okay.
Yeah, sad, but he's great in it.
Yeah, great cast. I love that movie, man. It's the TV movie. What they did, with it being a TV movie and how scary it can be as just a TV movie, was phenomenal. I mean, I give that high acclaim. All right, so that was your number 13. Guess what? I have another Stephen King for my number 13. And this comes from an amazing collection of short stories. I friggin' love it. It's called Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Released in 1992, and it's got so many great stories in there. The one that I'm positioning as my number 13 selection is called The Night Flyer. The movie 1997. If you guys haven't seen it, it is really good. Number one, it's got a great main star, Gail Ferrer. If you guys haven't seen this guy, I'm going to get into what he's done. He played a character in RoboCop. Him and the dad from that 70s show, I guess, were two main bad guys of the evil corporation, I guess, in that movie. He was also in, it looks like, he was in Mulan. He was in Iron Man 3. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, NCIS LA. That's right. I knew he was on there. So he passed away too. He was a heavy smoker. But yeah, he played Owen Ranger in NCIS Los Angeles 2017, which is actually the year that he passed away. This movie was great. It's The Night Flyer. It's a vampire that travels by plane to different cities. It's basically airports. And it's much more than that. That's the basis for it. The vampire, when the vampire is finally revealed and you see the vampire, it is really grotesque. It reminds me of Salem's Lot a little bit in that I've never seen a vampire look like that before. It has some characteristics. Not going to tell you too much more about it, but I highly recommend, if you like vampire movies, watch The Night Flyer. Miguel Ferrer is fantastic as the reporter that's chasing him down from city to city. Of course, nobody thinks he's a vampire. They think he's some kind of serial killer. And he goes to small airports. He's not going to LaGuardia. He's not going to JFK. So he's going to smaller airports, which is how he's able to get away with this. Anyway, The Night Flyer by Stephen King. Definitely, at least the book is by Stephen King. Short story. Let's move on to the next one, number 12. Dirty, what do you got for number 12?
Cape Fear.
Excellent. De Niro, Scorsese.
Yeah, one of my favorites. I don't know. It's just it's classic De Niro. I don't know. Just he plays a good villain, good psychopath. It was all the tattoos in the beginning scene. Just the overconfidence. I just thought he was intense, and he just looked pretty menacing. I liked how he just basically haunted this family. Nick Nolte plays a good victim that he's failed. He failed at him. Claims he failed at him. Failed at the system, and it's just great. I like it.
It is, and who plays Nick Nolte's daughter went on to become a pretty big star.
Bridget Fonda? No, that's not. She's not a Fonda. I know who you're talking about. She's still pretty good. She's a really good good actress. She's a Dreyfus, I believe.
California with Brad Pitt.
Right. That's her heyday.
Yeah, what's the name of this movie?
Cape Fear.
Cape Fear. I'm sorry, man. If I haven't got my fingertips, I can't not look it up. Juliette Lewis.
Yeah, Julia Lewis. Yeah.
And guess what? Robert Mitchum is in this. He was in the original Cape Fear. Robert Mitchum, man, is a badass actor who did a great job playing those type of characters. He's in a classic called The Night of the Hunter back, I think it was in 1955. And I don't, was he in Shane?
I think so, yeah.
Robert Mitchum. Anyway, classic
real
actor.
Smooth.
Really smooth. Awesome. Great cast. Good selection. So it's number 12. For my number 12, mine is the 90s heralded sort of new sort of, I call them Friends horror movies, which is like a bunch of good-looking white kids, basically. Actually, you can say about a lot of 80s movies, too, but this one was just a collection of people that were in WB TV shows, whatever. Everyone remembers it. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I do like that, though. I think it was Johnny Galecki was in this movie, and it was he was in it, and it was a kind of, again, a detour for him doing family-friendly TV shows. He was actually pretty good in it. I do believe that the killer was a good sort of base for a killer as far as just the fisherman's outfit and the hook, somebody that got people. I do think it was successful as far as it being having some suspense. Cast, whatever. It's just a bunch of young people. It's got Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Phillippe, Ray Prince Jr., amongst young famous people. And I mean, that's really about as much as I could say. A lot of people want to see it. And that's my number 12 for best horror movies in the 90s. We actually have one apiece coming up before we're going to end part 1 of the series of this episode. So, Dirty, let's get down to it. We have our last ones of the best of the first half of the best horror movies in the 90s. What do you got for number 11?
Let's see here. Sixth Sense.
Interesting, yeah. Again, another borderline horror movie as versus, I don't know, thriller, psychological thriller or whatever, but yeah,
Right.
huge, huge movie at the end of the 90s. Is there anything else you want to say about The Sixth Sense?
Let's see. Yeah, it was just a good movie. It's like you said. I noticed with a lot of '90s horror. Like they had I believe they had bigger budgets, so it was like better production.
Right.
It was just
M.
more
Night
big.
Shyamalan. Right.
I don't think he was around yet. Or no. Yeah, what am I talking about? Yeah, he wrote it and directed, but yeah, it was a good movie. I like his style. He good suspense. He's really good at at plot twists, and it was like subtle shock, but for the most part it was it was just a good movie. And I like I like the characters. I thought Bruce Willis was really good. I don't know, I just the beginning scene was really good. How the ghost would speak to the kid, and the whole time you don't know Bruce Willis is actually a spirit until the
Right.
end. And yeah,
Johnny
so
Wahlberg has a good role in that.
yeah, yeah, it was just a good movie. I liked it.
Yeah. Big twist at the end. I mean, again, a huge, just, I believe seems like it stuck around forever.
Yeah,
My number 11 is borderline whether or not it's a horror movie as well. Um, it's billed as a horror comedy. I didn't laugh too much at it, but my number 11 selection is Arachnophobia. What I love about it is I love movies about dangerous animals, insects, all that kind of stuff. It's
yeah,
got sharks, it's got alligators, it's got spiders, some of the more scarier ones. This one, I really kind of liked it. I like the cinematography in the beginning of it. It's directed by Frank Marshall, who's the older brother of Penny Marshall.
oh wow,
Very good, yeah, very good cinematography in the beginning when they go into the Brazilian rainforest, which of course has the biggest spiders there, these big 3-foot long spiders, which I guess those actually will kill you more with their fangs as far as blood loss rather than venom. But as opposed to tiny little spiders that have different colors to them,
yeah,
black widow and different kinds. But and there's a spider which I guess goes back to America. There's one of the stars in it. He just, I guess, went missing for a while, and they found him dead. He was a hiker, as it turns out. And he was in some science fiction movies. The guy's name,
you mean recently?
Julian Sands. Did you hear about
Yeah,
this?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
a Warlock or something,
right,
which I believe maybe was Leprechaun in Warlock, the actor.
yeah,
I don't know. Anyway, yeah, good movie. John Goodman, I guess, provides a little bit of comedy, but Jeff Daniels is really kind of a average, mellow, sort of nondescript actor.
right,
And I guess that's about it. It's kind of a hit. There's a big standoff in the end, which is actually very interesting. It's got a good ending, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've gone back to see it multiple times since. So, anyway, Arachnophobia 1990. That will wrap up our, we'll say, 20 through 11 list of 1990s horror movies. If you hang on with us, we're going to do part 2. We'll try to go through that quickly. Dirty and I are getting a little bit tired. We both had long days today. So we will keep the spirit rolling, though, for our conclusion to this 1990 list of horror movies. Stay with us, and we will be right back.
all right.